For those of you who'd like access to this content, follow the link in the description box, visit our Patreon page, and subscribe to the Black Kluge tier. For a mere $5 a month, you get access to the alternate Sunday episodes you've been missing, only available on Patreon, as well as the weekly Tuesday episodes. But wait, there's more. If you subscribe to the Black Kluge tier, you'll also get 2 weeks advance notice to our Thursday sessions. And if you needed any more incentive, when we have bonus episodes, Patreon is the place where you're going to find them. Also, don't forget to check out Teepublic for our great swag. The link is also in the aforementioned description.
After September 11th. And Howard Stern said, while I was defending my crazy comments, he said, I think we should drop a nuclear bomb on a Muslim country. I don't care which Muslim country. It doesn't matter. Just any Muslim country. Just drop a nuclear bomb, throw a dart at the map, and drop a nuclear bomb. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, Jackie wrote that for him.
Lots of email about Robin. Robin, you jealous cunt. Maybe if you'd learn how to speak on the radio without taking enormous and distracting breaths, 60 Minutes would do a story on you. Learn how to be a broadcaster. Listen back to yourself on any day and you'll hear just how annoying it is. You seem like you are constantly struggling with yourself to breathe and speak at the same time. It's like your brain and your lungs are in a war. Your brain wants to get out every fucking last thought before the breath you just took gets used up. You can do both, you know. Howard does it, Artie does it. Hell, even JD is better at speaking on the radio than you.
Wow. Now, I will not accept that.
Imagine you're a young woman in the prime of your life, and there's something inside you so desperate for fame that you marry Imus, who looks like your grandfather.
My wife's out of town, and I get a call. I got a call from...
Isn't that in the paper every day now?
Yeah, I got a call from Steve Martin.
Sweetheart, let me tell you something. There's no freedom of speech on this show except for me. I control everything on this show. It is called the Howard Stern Show.
Absolutely, and all you have is a button, Howard.
And that's why it's interesting.
That's it. And then you're challenging everybody's education level, and Robin's reporting the news off the Inquirer.
Yes, so what?
What difference does that make?
Well, that makes a big amount of difference when you're challenging. You listen to the dummies that'll agree with you in the long run, and you hang up on the people that have good points.
But, honey, that's me.
You're nude in one scene in Wolverine. Yeah. You know, it's a faraway shot. They said that when they made the original movie, you were naked a lot more. You're not afraid to show your penis on film, are you?
I cheated on every one of my boyfriends except for Howard.
For real?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
The day I met Howard, my cheating days ended.
You were a cheater?
I was a cheater. I am admitting that here.
Really? Do they know that?
Do all the guys? I believe most of them know, and if not, I'm sure they're going to find out now.
Why do you think you were a cheater? Like, what would lead to the cheating?
I was never 100% satisfied in my relationship.
With the sex or the relationship?
Each one of the relationships gave me reason to not believe that was the right relationship for me.
Are you cheating on someone with Howard right now that he doesn't even know about Howard, or?
Oh, am I, what?
No, I'm kidding around.
So if she wasn't there, the dog would be gone.
I would have rescued the dog.
Really, Howard?
Yeah. I was taking my shoes off because I know I don't want to drown in the pool.
And then what would you have needed to remove?
My pants.
Your hair?
My shirt. No. Yes, I was prepared to jump in and get the dog.
Welcome, ladies and gents, to QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, Phil Moore, as always, a.k.a. Jim Fix, and with me, the host and the originator. You're not originator, correct?
The originator, none greater.
There you go, of Turnbuckle Tabloid, our sister show. How are you, brother?
Doing well. I'm going by today a man who actually put together a radio network as opposed to still waiting for the Howard Stern radio network, and that's going about 30 years now. We're still waiting for that. Jay the Red Santi.
It's great to have you back, brother. I think that, first of all, just a little note, everybody. There's on Netflix as of September 20th, I believe, or 20th or 25th. I could be getting that mixed with the Steam release of God of War Ragnarok, which I'm like, I'm waiting for that. I doubt it'll work on my Steam Deck, but it'll at least work on computers, so I'm not worried about not being able to play it. But they're going to release on Netflix a 6-part documentary on Vince McMahon. And what I read was, not read, I saw it in a video actually, and read, but they quoted from the video that I saw as well, that I think it was, what's his name from The Click, who's still alive?
Kevin Nash?
Nash, yeah, was talking on a podcast about he didn't know anything about it. Apparently, the McMahon family, which I guess means in this case Stephanie and Hunter, they gave the rights to Netflix to all the vaults, like whatever fucking footage they wanted. They interviewed, like they have hundreds or thousands of hours of interview footage that they had to work with. But then the scandal came out about Vince and the sex payoffs and all the other stuff. In the middle of it. So I don't think once they signed away the rights, there's nothing they could do about it. So that's going to be included in this. Are you fascinated? Are you interested in this?
Yeah, because I know Bill Simmons is doing it, and usually like he has done he's been pretty light with certain stories and topics and such. But for this, you can't. No. There's a lot that needs to be shared and ingested when it comes to Vince and his upbringing, the abuse he had coming up, his disconnect from his father for so many years, his days as in military school. There's a lot of deviant and really deep issues that was going down with Vince, and I really would like them to, not do a fluff piece like Dark Side of the Ring would do. You got to really get in depth with him and what's going on, especially now. What we hear later on in his life, it's remarkable that they're actually going to peel back the layers on that as well.
I'd love to cover that one, even though it's not a QF topic. I'd love to be able to cover it. So if you feel like your game, if you like to, I'd love to sit in on any of those because he does have quite a, not to say that, you got to excuse him because of his awful behavior over the years because of his terrible childhood, but it does explain a lot where his fucked up head led him to. And I'm sure for 6 hours, they could have probably made it 20 hours and there'd be plenty because of the interview footage that they could get from people alive and dead talking about him and shoot interviews and print interviews. It's just incredible what people have said about him over the years.
Yeah. Jim Ross has already mentioned that they didn't approach him, and he was kind of taken aback by that because he was one of those who worked really close with Vince. He knows the ins and outs, he knows the mans, but I think at the same time, he wouldn't give what others would, and I think that's the real focus on what they want to get out of this whole docuseries.
Yeah, I think to get a complete view of the guy in terms of the business side of things and as well as the home life thing, you'd really have to and plus the age, the amount of time he's been in the business, you'd really have to make it a longer documentary. You know how Vice sometimes shortchanges stuff and they give things 2 hours at most. With the McMahon thing, you could make it a full series of television, and it probably would be a little overkill, but it would be more complete. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. But however, guys, this is of course a Howard Stern podcast, and it would be stupid of me not to include some Howard content. And sure enough, we've got one that some people have been requesting. This is the infamous Bob Costas show hosted by Tom Snyder, who was doing a favor for Costas to interview Stern. And I believe this is about 91, if I'm not mistaken. And, you can be forgiven for not knowing exactly when, because he still got the fucking poodle dude that he wore on Arsenio like 2 years earlier. And I don't think Snyder knew that he would be interviewing Stern.
Seeing as though they had a history, they did have a history prior.
I believe so. It was the two most, one of the two, Snyder didn't like him. He made no bones about it and certainly doesn't here. But the other person was, from The Tonight Show, Steve Allen. Steve Allen for many years hated Stern. And even though at the time you would have thought, and I did too, Steve Allen, he's a stick in the mud. What does he know as a kid? You don't know anything about Stern. But as an adult, you realize what he said about Stern was absolutely spot on. But like the inmates have taken over the station.
Yeah, it was so much so that the Howard Stern fans were calling into Snyder's show, and it just totally ruined his call-in segments and such.
Yeah,
it's. I think Jenks even called a couple of times and busted his balls. So yeah. Snyder wasn't very pleased with Stern and his antics.
Did you watch Snyder growing up? I sure did. When I could. He had a few shows over the years, and he wasn't my absolute favorite. But when he had someone one-on-one, I always loved certain. He was better than Charlie Rose, and he was on par with Dick Cavett when it was the right guest.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly like the sense of the show that you had gotten with Snyder. Once Cavett got off the air, it was almost like a carryover of that. For me, it would always come on. We always got it like on CBS channel to like at 12:30 at night. Be after at sometimes it'll be after like Letterman or whatever it was before he changed over. And I always liked those one-to-one interview segments. I think that I kind of patterned myself a little bit on my podcast with that as well. Kind of reminded me of a more serious tone of a Joe Franklin. Joe Franklin was another one that sometimes I would get, and I would you could get a serious conversation with him, and then you'll get a burlesque dancer who will come out of nowhere on the Joe Franklin show.
Well, Snyder was he could hang with just about anybody. He had a contentious one with John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, as like in '81, I'd say. And then like about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years later, Lydon came back on the show, obviously a decade older, and sort of broke bread with him, and made the piece. And it was actually it was interesting the way the interviews, the two interviews were diametrically opposed, but it was still refreshing. Anyway, we're going to go through this, and I think some people posted this on Steve Hoffman's forums, and some of the comments are great. I'll read them later when I get a chance.
And thank you for staying up later. I'm Tom Snyder for Bob Costas. There is nothing wrong with your set. And my guest tonight is Howard Stern, who is radio in New York and Philadelphia. And if Howard Stern has his way, will soon be radio in Los Angeles and much of the rest of the country. His ratings are tops right now in New York and Philadelphia. Howard Stern is also seen syndicated nationally on television, mostly in the late night time period, and also on the superstation WWWWOR. Howard, it's a pleasure to meet you after all these years of mutual attack.
Well, and let me just say something. It's
but Snyder's such a pro. He plugged that thing like he was just like fucking fantastic that way. But and he's not afraid to just say, look, in this case, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you could tell even going in, Wiggy always tends to play as though that he's, this macho man, and I could go in there and hang with the best. But I just starting off the show, you could tell there's a look of, where am I going to go with this? And kind of that sense is like, yeah, regardless of how much of a pomp and circumstance I have playing in my head right now, I'm dealing with a pro right now.
Yes. A pro, not only a pro, but a pro who's not afraid to mix it up with anybody, and he can hang on his own. And I mean, Pat Cooper's infamous appearance on Tom Snyder show is also great. Did you ever see that one?
No, I haven't. I need to get
oh, fuck. It's incredible. And he had Chevy Chase on, I think, one of the last shows he did for NBC, and I think it was NBC or ABC anyway, and Chevy attacked the network. He said, I think you're stupid. I think you shouldn't get rid of him. Tom Snyder's great, whatever. It was entertaining always. Yeah. And you're right. Howard always thinks that I'm just gonna plow right through, but here he's not quite sure, and you can tell in his eyes he's a little fearful. Like, what could happen here?
Kind of shocked that he's not on with his shades or any sense of other pair of glasses. He's actually out there using, I believe, his contacts. Kind of,
or a monitor in front of him. Yeah.
It's thrilling to hear you say my credits, because it actually sounds like I've got something going on. It's very, very impressive.
And you think you don't?
No, it's very exciting. TV show, barely a TV show, but a TV show nevertheless. And also I'm in Washington radio.
Audiences who have read about you have heard you defined as the king of shock radio.
Are we going to work out this thing between us first before you go into the serious
There's nothing
interview?
Between us, pal. We do this half hour and we never see each other again.
No. There is something between us.
No, there's nothing between us.
You have bad rapped me before. I've read various newspaper articles where you have said that you don't like what I do. Isn't that true?
I have said that I am not a fan of your format. I do not care for what is called shock radio.
And you listen to me?
Because I can't listen to you in Los Angeles.
But you think I'm shock radio?
I think
do you think that's an appropriate...
Now, do you want to come over here? Or
No, wait a second. I'm curious.
Just a minute.
You think that's an appropriate title for what I do, shock radio?
No, I don't. But that's the handle that you wear in the press. You know, I read newspapers, too, and they define Howard Stern as shock radio. Hey, listen, Howard...
But then you hear my format. I'm curious.
Wait a second.
I'm curious.
Wait, just
You're
a
an
second.
intelligent man,
for
though.
years, they ran stories about Snyder that he was controversial, that he was abrasive, that he would bring guests into the studio and chew them up. Do you feel chewed up at this point?
Well, first of all, it's been so many years, and think of the Bill Maher interview on Real Time, and then think of the Netflix thing with Letterman, and Tom Snyder's the only one who's been able to shut him the fuck down outside of Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, there's also this air that he needed to, like, I have to get this out of the way, and it's like, why? Snyder would have gotten to it. He what it was, but once again, this is one of those things that he's out of his league. He doesn't want to be the one that's under the thumbnail of this conversation. He doesn't want to be looked upon as, I'm not going to be able to give the right answers to a question in which I'm possibly going to be the subject of ridicule of. He generally had to leap up and get in front of it and try to get something out of Snyder. And so far, Snyder's holding his own there.
Yep.
Oh, I'm hardly getting a word in edgewise.
Well, but the point I'm trying to make is we all read things in the paper, and when you have something to say, you will.
No, but you lived in New York. Now, calm down, Tom, really. Yeah, really. He hasn't been on network television in a long time. He's got a lot to say, and he wants to get it all done. No, in all seriousness, and it's good to see you on television again, even though you hate this, right?
I don't think that you're shock radio. It's just that the kind of things that you and others do on radio, I am not a fan of. Now, that doesn't make
you... don't think I'm funny?
No,
do you think I'm funny?
I don't think you're funny.
And
God bless you, Tom.
I mean, listen, not many people like to eat dogs, but some do. I mean, what can I tell you?
Now listen.
What one finds funny, somebody doesn't, yeah?
Chacun son goût, you're right. And I think that in this case, you're going with a generational overturn. Snyder's was never going to be a fan of Stern or the radio, whatever, or him as an interview. And I mean, years later, I think Snyder passed away in 2007. Yeah.
Yes, I just looked it up. Yeah, he did in 2007.
And so, and he had, and he was still doing shows up until 95, 96, 97. He had late night. Like I used to get them kind of around 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night, if I'm not mistaken, or a Friday night, something like that. And when I could catch them, they were often entertaining. I love the format. And as I said, he's not the kind of generation that would like Stern. But the fact that he nailed him for not being funny, he doesn't think he's funny. There were just as many people, more people that found him incredibly unfunny in general, not just on talk shows, but the radio show itself. So, yeah. I mean, Howard did not work in every single market, obviously.
Yeah, and it's also, like you said, the generational thing, but it's also where tastes are as well. Like, even though, Carson was, years before me, I still would watch, the Johnny Carson Tonight Show Presents shows, and I will laugh. I still laugh at them because I think they're funny, even though they were ahead, years before me.
Yeah.
Now it's, I'm looking and I'm listening to music this day and age, and especially when it comes to my hip hop, I'm like, oh, this is shit. Like this, I'm the get off my lawn guy now. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah,
terrible. What happened to me?
Yeah, it's tough to stay. I hate to use the word hip, but it's hard to stay hip when you have so many more things on your mind, when you're so much more going on. You just get busier as you get older. It's hard not to, with the things going on. Kids, I don't have kids, but you find ways to do it anyway. Like you may run your own podcast, but you may have business that you've taken on, or you may decide you're going to be more, I don't know, socially responsible and take on charity work and whatever it might be. Bottom line is, it's hard to get the latest artist, listen to the latest song, know where it's coming from, know who's on tour. I mean, when you get to our age, you're going, okay, who's coming back? Who's back in town now? Like, who can I see that I know I'm going to go to a show and be entertained and not have to worry about lip syncing and shit. And so, like there's a certain, I guess, comfort or familiarity by watching old shows, old YouTube clips, going down the wormhole and stuff. With Stern, Yeah, you do. There are lots of things on there. Like, but I find now I'm doing that with Stern in the last, however, 14, 15, 20 years. I'd rather go on YouTube and see a segment that I know I'm going to enjoy than listen to the modern show and think, well, maybe I'll be lucky once in 1,000 bits that he'll get a laugh out of me.
Yeah, and there's also that sense of like I mentioned earlier, there's there's certain types of genres for certain type of people. I remember people would go back and forth about Carson or Letterman or Leno and Letterman, and especially what Letterman was doing for late night television back then. It was considered like very against the grain of the machine of what they wanted for a talk show.
That's right.
And people gravitated to that because it wasn't the familiar thing. I guess the same we were saying about with Wiki like years ago was he wasn't the Z Morning Zoo. He wasn't that Imus kind of show that gave you news at 10 minutes, the weather and such like that. He was different, and that's why we gravitated to that. Tom is more of that old school kind of guy. He liked that radio at WFAN, WCBS kind of radio.
Mm-hmm. What don't you like about it?
I watched a cassette of your show last night, the television show. You had lesbian dating game. You talked about the Sammy Davis cancer man. Right. Now this is all funny stuff to some people. Pal, to me, it's not funny. Now, that does not make you unfunny. It makes me...
makes you out of touch.
Out of touch, okay.
Right, okay.
And I admit that. I will admit that I'm out of touch with the Howard Stern kind of humor.
I think you do like me. I think that you're afraid to admit that you like me. Because there's something inside us all, something evil inside us all that likes me.
There's no question about it. For example, 20 minutes after the shuttle went down in 1985, there were jokes all over the broadcast newsrooms of this country about the Space Shuttle Challenger.
That's right.
There sure were. God, I still remember them. And as kids, I was 11 when that happened. I remember distinctly. And I mean, for fuck's sake, kids, you forget how cruel fucking kids can be. I remember, how do you fit 7 astronauts in the, how do you fit 7 astronauts in a car, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and 3 in the ashtrays? It was awful.
Oof. Yeah.
How do they know? What was it? How do they know Christine McAuliffe wish her hair was clean? They found her head and shoulders or something like that. I know. It's brutal. But and what Snyder's making here is a good point. There's always been that kind of stuff, but it's geared to a certain crowd.
Yeah, and it's also kept in house. Like it was never really out in the open. It was that tuck on the elbow, like, hey, what do you get when you put 7 astronauts? Like that, there was that kind of thing. You didn't say it out loud in front of like a room of 100. It was very low key.
No, it was at a class of 30.
Yeah, exactly.
When the war started between Iraq and the United States and the coalition, there were jokes all over the map about the war.
That's right.
But you see, to me, in my out of date, out of touch, out of sync, out of mind way of thinking, those jokes we tell in the dressing room. Yeah, but we don't tell them out here.
You are so wrong.
And by the way,
you are so wrong because, first of all, what my radio show and my television show are about are not about making jokes about tragedies. That is not the idea of the show. What the idea of the show is to convey real honesty on the air.
Okay.
To get away from the phony type of...
like that hair?
Yeah, I'm mesmerized. He's got the Brian May going on right now, and
it's worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a bad version of it. It looks as though like it's gone through the ringer. Like it's just not there for me. I'm like, okay.
I did find it funny that in 1992, okay, we're going to say 92, but, let's be honest, 91, 92, 93, same shit, because he basically had the same hair going on for quite a few years here. From 89 onwards, 88 or so, this is what it looked like. And grunge was happening. He didn't get into grunge until like 5 years after, like 3 years after Kurt Cobain died.
Yeah, late to the party all the time.
Yeah. Very late, yeah. And this is, it's just a shit look, but it's obviously a wig. I don't know how anybody could debate this one.
No, the worst is have you ever seen him put it in a ponytail? Like it's just he reminded me of a bad version of the the lead singer from Extreme, like in that More Than Words video.
Gary Sharon.
Gary Sharon. Like he had like that look, but worse. It was like another level of bad.
The Hello Frisco version of Gary Sharon.
Yeah, like when you see More Than Words, it was just like, yeah, no. Wiggy just made it look terrible.
Yeah, with those caps, I'd love to hear him sing those lyrics. Let's keep going.
For broadcasting, where someone sits there and
You mean like this?
bites.
You mean like this?
Well, in a way, yeah. Where people bite their tongue and are afraid to say anything. I mean, there are a million things. If I was interviewing you, I'd love to know about your days at NBC. I'd love to know your problems with NBC. I'd love to know your beefs with NBC.
But would you also want to know my toilet habits?
Yeah, I would.
Really?
Yeah. What are your toilet habits?
I want to tell you, Howard, you got to get out more, pal.
No, I would like to know
you
about
spend too much time at home.
I mean, I don't know anything about you.
You know what? Snyder doesn't even know him to know that that's perfectly accurate.
Exactly. He's nailed it perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know your sex life. I don't know things about you. I'm curious, but you could always refuse to answer. But that would be interesting to see you refuse to answer.
All right.
This is like two mental patients arguing. It's 1:30-something in the morning here. They came in to plug my new CD. I don't believe it.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me get this out of the way.
No, let me do the plug.
No, because you'll take too long.
No, I won't. I won't take. I swear, trust me.
You're going to love this.
Oh, this is unreal. Thank God they fired this man.
This is it's either fired or I left. Whatever
what did you do? Did you leave? Or
whatever
did you,
you wanted to read in the paper.
Right.
This is the new CD of things that you never heard on the radio, and once you listen to it, you'll know why.
That's not true.
Do you remember? Did you buy that, by the way, at the time, like when you or years later? And it was just a big disappointment to most people who got it.
Yeah, it was basically just like throwaway bits that shouldn't ever air anyway. It's almost like it's basically what Sal and Richard wanted to do when they said, like, all the bits that that aren't being used, we will take it and compact it and make our own CD once the show is done.
And he was like, no.
He tore him up for it. Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
It was, and I remember, I think it was Kinnison and Jessica Hahn were on it, I believe. And I can't remember what else, but it was actually not a lot of, like, people were expecting, I remember reading at the time, people were expecting that it was going to be some, like, not just the greatest hits, but it'll be extended stuff or things that were edited, whatever, but also good stuff, like really, things that were so good they couldn't be aired, but so shocking at the time, but they really weren't that good.
No, there wasn't anything there that anybody was taken aback by. Nothing,
and selling that Crucified by the FCC bullshit as if it was some kind of like shocking radio, whatever, and it was just really lame shit.
Mm-hmm.
What that tape that you're holding, Crucified by the FCC. It's not available in record stores, first of all.
And there's a reason.
And everything that is on that CD has been banned by the United States government. They say that stuff is too dirty for you to listen to on the radio. I released it for a reason.
Right.
A, to make a profit.
Okay, good.
And B, for the public to hear it and say, wait a second, what the hell is the government going after here? So I set up a phone line. Can I give the phone number?
Why would you give the phone?
One time. Give me a plug, huh?
They're going to blip it out anyway.
Would they really?
Of course they would.
What, to order the tape? Why do people come on this show if you can't get a plug off?
If you came
Where is Bob Costas? I want to talk to him. He lets you give a number.
That's the fucking funniest thing. This is a guy who we're just in the middle. Like Carrie and I have 2 episodes in our belts. We've released them about him and the CBS lawsuit. He goes on this. They're going to bleep it, and they do. And he doesn't remember this or doesn't think about it like for a second. Obviously, he will not allow something on the air when it's not, they're not getting plugged. They're, when they're not getting money for advertising for it. When Robin was doing her 15 Foundation thing, he bit his fucking lip every time she plugged it.
Yeah, but also at the same time, this is material for him to go back to the show the next day to say, "You saw what they did, Robin. They didn't allow me to do promotion, Robin." Yeah, true. So this is all something that it could stir up some shit and later on say even more hateful things about Tom Snyder down the line.
I suppose so.
What the hell is going on? Really a pain in the ass.
Give the damn number.
One Stern. Go back to your little interview.
Let me just try something here.
Yeah, go ahead. Word association?
You define yourself as believe me, if I started with word association and Howard Stern, they couldn't put that on. You're a broadcaster. I've read that, you like doing radio in the morning. You like being number one. You aspire to do television. And Howard, there ain't nothing wrong with that. I did that. Everybody does that. What's your definition of broadcasting? I mean, your dad was in this business. He had a recording studio in the New York area, so you've been around broadcasting since you were a kid.
Right.
What do you define this as?
First of all, my father was barely in this business. It was frightening how barely my father was in this business. If only I had had a father who was successful in this business, it might have gone a little easier.
No, that's just shitty, of course, but that's standard. That's standard Howard trying to make like he never got any breaks. I think we've established pretty well over the course of QF that Ben got his foot in many doors.
I mean, even to this day, I'm watching a new channel that just opened up. Me TV has a Cartoon Network now. Mm-hmm. It's Me TV Toon, and they show Tennessee Tuxedo cartoons. Now, every time I see it, I think of Ben.
Yes,
and you think it's like, wow, he was involved in that industry, and that's not a small take to have on you. That's actually a big toll. That's notoriety there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Secondly, the way I define broadcasting is my father. Oh, my father. On his best year, I don't think he made $25,000. But I'm not going to be a rich man when he dies.
Because he didn't have a Costas program to come on and hold up the damn videotape and hawk the numbers.
That's right. But he asked my definition of broadcasting. I don't have a definition of broadcasting.
But when you got your first job, what did you want to do with your career as a radio guy?
I wanted to be on radio. My goal in life was to be on radio and do a goofy show, to go on the air and entertain people. When I was a kid, I'd go sometimes into work with my father, and we'd be on the Long Island Expressway going into New York. And it would be 7 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be back-to-back traffic.
Gotcha.
No one could move. And for 2 hours, the guy's stuck in his car, and there's nothing funny, nothing entertaining on the radio. I used to sit there and go, if there was something good on the radio, if there was something fun to listen to, people would worship you. They would thank you. And that's what happens when I walk through the streets. People just thank me for giving them something. You, Tom, don't get into it because you, of course, have limousines and chauffeurs and things like this.
Oh, what a fucking
wait a minute.
That you just stepped in it, asshole. Like, first of all, what streets is he walking in?
Oh, that and limousines and whoa! I think this was around this time where he got Ronnie.
He got Ronnie no way. He had Ronnie since WNBC days.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah. So is that like this? And this isn't like, I think listeners of the show would have heard this and said that's bullshit, but they would have ignored it because they think, this is our God on TV, and this would have been one of those things where people like, we got to watch Howard. We got to watch Howard. Do you feel he's coming off better than average here, or even just average? I think it's just typical Howard bullshit, and I don't find it entertaining one bit, regardless of how many years I've been running this podcast.
Yeah, this is early telemarketing. This is his early days. This is
very much.
Yeah, this is where he was drafting it. Man of the people, salt of the earth. I'm just like you. It's just I have a microphone in front of me kind of guy.
Yeah, and a shitty watch on. Fuck.
And you don't have to commute to work. And when you commute to work, you need something entertaining to listen to.
Just a minute.
Tom, stop pontificating on my show.
No.
I'm here for plugs.
You talk about me in the limousines. I walked over here from a hotel today. We're paying. Bravo.
Oh.
But does the audience know that Howard Stern's makeup person preceded him here by a half an hour today?
Right.
Okay.
Well. It's been bothering me for the longest. What was the name of the show? And I just remember what it was. It was Bob Costas Later. That's what it was called.
You got it later. Absolutely. Yeah. I think was this so. He had that, I'd say, 89 to early 90s, right?
Yeah, he and then after that, I believe that's when Carson Daly ended up taking over and doing Last Call afterwards. Yeah, because this was the half hour that they did after Letterman, before Letterman went to CBS.
Hey, that Howard Stern's makeup person was very concerned that Mr. Stern's Avion water was ready when he got to the studio.
Well, look at me. Of course someone's got to be a makeup person.
Howard, you want all the trappings.
Well, of course I do.
You want limousines.
But I don't do...
Fucking burned. It's funny. One of those things, like, you just wish that the little pushback he got on the Letterman thing, the Netflix, my next guest is whatever. You wish he would have been half as hard as Snyder was.
That and the comedians in cars with Seinfeld. It was so fluffy that it almost seemed as though that was probably Jerry's worst going with someone who's a quote unquote comedian. It was almost literally like it was pulling teeth to get something out of him.
There was a ranking of all the episodes on from, I guess there's 60 of them, something like that. I think that's about right. And Howard's was among the 10 worst, according has to easily. And it was one of the shortest. But also, I think even Jerry knew that I couldn't make this funny. There's no way. I mean, he was all right in a couple of points, but I think he knew it would be a train wreck before it started.
Yeah, I got to look at that list because I know I've watched. I've seen all of them, and I could do my own ranking and be like, "Woof!" Yeah, he was top 3 of the worst episodes.
I think so.
Deny that. You do.
You make fun of me because.
And what is wrong with wanting those things?
But you make fun of me for wanting it or for having had it. Howard, you want the same things everybody else wants.
But I accuse you
want to make $1 million.
I accuse you of being out of touch.
Your record.
I accuse you of being out of touch. You asked me what my theory of broadcasting is. Guys like you want to broadcast in a phony style. You want everything nice. You want nothing provocative. You just want to go along. Everything should be fine. No one should shock anybody with the truth. Nobody should do anything. Everything should be just fine. All the network executives should be happy. To me, the exciting part of broadcasting is turning on that listener in his car, who's trapped in his car for 2 hours. And then he finally makes it to work, and you know what? He doesn't want to leave his car because he doesn't want to miss what we're doing.
And what do you want to happen with the Howard Stern Show on television? What do you want the viewer to come away with?
I want the Howard Stern Show on television to go away, quite frankly. I know, it's a lot of work. It's just a tremendous amount of work, and we only have 2 full-time people on my show.
What?
What do you mean? What? It was the cheapest made show probably in history. I mean, puppet shows were more expensive to produce.
I'm a little confused though here. It's 91. Now is this the interview show he's talking about?
It's the interview. I believe it's the interview show. Yeah. So even that, it was poorly lit.
Yes.
It looked like it was done in like a slave dungeon or something.
Yeah.
It didn't. You could have done it with $1.25. It didn't seem as that. And also, fast forward to 30 years later, he's talking about out of touch. They're using AI right now to make content for the show. Like they're doing AI bits, and it's not even good. It's bad. It's I don't talk about being out of touch.
Well, and it's unnecessary, ultimately. I mean, really, they just want him to be funny. They want him to do good interviews. If he's just going to be the Tom Snyder of 2024, he's failing miserably. He just did a shit interview with Aubrey Plaza, who I've got a massive heart-on for and have for years. But and they just put out a press there was an article in Daily Mail saying, it's on our Facebook page now, that she was, he thinks she was a dud, and he thinks she didn't help anything. Like if you've seen her on just about any talk show, she's a live wire. She knows how to mingle. She knows how to make the guests. She knows how to do the dance. She's not going to do the dance with this fluffed up old queen on Zoom. That's just not possible. I mean, we can only do so much. I mean, it depends what kind of interview you're looking for. But she's not the one that's going to get energized by talking to some doddering old grandpa, asking about psychotherapy questions, at 7 a.m.
Yeah, I love her.
Me too.
Plus, she's Puerto Rican. Any case,
yeah, she is, isn't she? She's got, I think, part Irish, part Puerto Rican. I think.
Yes, she's Puerto Rican. And us Puerto Ricans, we always got to acknowledge that somebody's Puerto Rican. But no, I love her. Whenever she comes up on my YouTube Shorts, or anytime I see it comes up on my storylines of Conan I have on YouTube, and she's on it, I always watch her. She's captivating, and she's funny, and it's rare you get that. Besides that, just a segue, just quick on the other side, I did hear about your crush on Aubrey,
the Billy West,
with Billy West, and I have to applaud you, sir, because I thought you did one hell of a job with that conversation with Billy. Being a Billy guy of the Stern years, I was like enthralled with how you handled it. You didn't go at the Stern stuff early on. You went exactly. You were on the same level as when Gilbert had him on his show and the conversations that they had. It was funny, entertaining, and he gave you more than I've ever heard anybody who were Stern fans trying to get stuff out than anybody else, and I applaud you for that. It was like almost like seeing someone who I consider like one of the finest talents in the industry ever, and you did a great job.
Well, thanks, man. He was so charming, and actually the lead up, he was really pursuing. Eventually he was reminding me like, hey, when's a good time for you? He was getting back to me constantly, which was I've never had that with anybody. And at one point, so afterwards he asked how to go, whatever. This was before we released it, about a week before we released it. And I said, no, it was fantastic. I just hope when you release the book, that give me a chance to read it, and we'll do another interview and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, including the book. But obviously, just whatever and he could talk. Obviously, he could talk for ages. But unlike Jackie, his stories really they're a little more. They're a little better than Jackie's in terms of, first of all, he's got more to say, but he's also willing to take a curve once in a while and go with it. Jackie just has these programmed answers most of the time, and as much as I love Jackie, I'm not a fan of his interviews. Yeah, I've been, like I said, been a fan of Billy for so many years, and especially just how much of a linguistic individual he is, the way that he uses words, and just it's almost like classical music for a guy you wouldn't think, who sits there and makes fucking funny voices with drawings, but yet is so well versed with the vernacular. I was riveted. I applaud you. It was great, man. Yeah, cheers. And it was, as for our Aubrey Plaza, it's just, it's not even that I was a fan of Parks and Rec. I didn't know he was a fan of her like that. He was like, really? He mentioned her on something else, so I thought, let me push this a little more, and let's ask, because that's something like there's, and I still believe it's true. There's sexy, and then there's cute, and there's hot, and all that stuff. But sometimes they don't all go together. And she's not classically gorgeous, right? She's not some, like, she just doesn't look like, Salma Hayek, or, she doesn't look like Scarlett Johansson, but she's got this sexiness to her that's she's so watchable. I guess I just can't take my eyes off her. Yeah, Sarah Silverman was the same way for me, because she's not gorgeous and not good, but there's that mixture of she's got something, and then just to be funny makes that 10 times. That's why I think I hope women look at me like they look at me and say, it's not Brad Pitt or anything, but he's funny, so it makes him pretty hot. That's what my target goal is. Right, there you go.
I was watching your show on videotape last night,
right,
the most recent version, and as I watched it, I said to myself, how does Letterman stay on the air in the face of this competition, in the face of this brilliance?
This brilliance, by the way, just pulled an 8 rating every week and beats Saturday Night Live every week it's been on.
Please don't give me ratings. Don't give me beat sets.
That's horseshit. There occasionally he would beat Saturday Night Live in the early 90s, but it didn't matter because advertising was the problem. Advertising was the problem, and a lot of the times he was beating them, it was local and it was on repeats. Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about that. Yeah, exactly.
Saturday Night Live.
Well, take a look at the ratings.
Give me what you want the viewer to have. The viewer doesn't care about the ratings. The viewer wants to have a laugh. The viewer wants to be entertained.
You are so combative. In fact, you must want this job very badly.
I don't want this job.
My God almighty, why don't you relax? You're anal retentive. For crying out loud, what does the guy want? I'm going to drive off a bridge when I get out of this show.
You're not going to drive, first of all. Someone's driving you, shithead. Number 2, there is no audience there, so stop looking at the camera. It's just the two of you. He does this every fucking time. I hate this move. Try to make sure like the camera is his friend. It's what it is a security blanket, because he cannot make eye contact and maintain eye contact throughout a conversation. Yeah, that's
I mean.
That I understand. That I can understand. I've been there.
Anal compulsive.
You are intense. What is it? You don't like your radio? He says to me, I swear to God, we're about to sit down to do the show, and he says to me, I don't want to do this ever again. I don't want to be on network television. This looks like a man who's pretty well driven to get himself back on network television. Do you agree?
I'm trying to give the viewers a profile of the Howard Stern they can't hear on radio.
This is like an interrogation. Why don't you try to be nice? What the hell's the matter with you?
Yes, Howard.
Calm down. Now, what was the question again?
How you feeling, Howard?
I can't figure out how old you are. That's my problem. I don't know what it is going on here. What happened when you were an anchorman for a while?
You
have had more careers. Someone ought to interview this man. What am I doing here?
I have done more farewells than the student prince. You're
I know,
right.
but you're doing all right. Look, you make a good living. You asked me a question, and I forget what it was.
Yes, I did ask you a question.
You were being very provocative.
Forgotten what the question was.
Oh, I blew it. Go ahead.
Nothing at all to do with
you.
No,
what were you saying?
With me. I was just wondering about your television show and, how...
The television show is very successful for the same reason.
I have to do the commercial now. We can't have you.
Can you hold up my tape?
Plug. Jesus.
I'm not holding up
Give the phone number.
Tape.
Give me a break.
You made one day of my life especially miserable for me.
Go ahead.
It was the day that, I got fired or left a news anchor job in New York to take I got fired.
I knew you were hostile for some reason. I knew you were hostile.
Wait a second. Let me take off.
You couldn't handle what? What couldn't Tom handle? What couldn't you handle? What are you, a baby?
Tommy couldn't handle the fact that Howard said that Tommy didn't like Oriental people and made fun of them and was a racist.
And do you think do you think that someone takes that for real when I say that?
Yes,
Coming from my mouth. You think that people are learning from me?
Hey, Howard, let me tell you something.
You think that people are turning to me for opinions?
The guy who's still going ching chong, ching chong.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that and even then, look at the climate now. Of course, people are influential, even in the dumbest shit that's being said. There are those who will gravitate and take it as truth, as that's what it really is. So he had an influence back then.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and even more so, especially in the New York area. I mean, let's not fuck around. But and it would even so, especially if it would have been, let's say 85, 86. I'm gonna have to look that up, I suppose. But Tom got let go from one gig, or I think it was NBC, and it might have been not too far after Howard was let go from WNBC. I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been a year afterwards, and. That was Howard's MO. Go after anybody when they're down. I mean, when Mr. Saturday Night flopped, do you think he didn't go after Billy Crystal with a fucking red hot passion? He beat down. He likes to kick a horse when they're down. That's exactly what they do. Eddie Murphy for the longest time. He was what was it? Not not Pluto Nash, because that was an obvious bomb. But around that time before he did Vampire in Brooklyn, around those early 90s years where he wasn't really Boomerang. I don't know was Boomerang a hit? I don't recall that it was.
Boomerang
was it?
Boomerang was a hit, yeah.
What was the stretch there where he was just not doing very well? Vampire in Brooklyn was not good.
Yeah, no, that wasn't. When he had the Nutty after that, yeah, you had, like I said, Pluto Nash. I mean, the Haunted Mansion, like he had those I Spy, like you said, Pluto Nash, Showtime with Robert De Niro.
Okay, hold on. Harlem Nights was a bomb. Vampire in Brooklyn. Okay, Pluto Nash.
Harlem Nights was a bomb, really?
It didn't. I mean, it cost so much money.
Holy Man was another one that oof.
Metro. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell, Beverly Hills Cop 3 was a disaster.
Well, no, it made money, but again, it was super expensive too. It was a shit film, that's for certain. Meet Dave? What the fuck?
Yeah, Meet Dave. That's what he's an alien. They had aliens in his head. Yeah.
Holy man. Okay. I don't even remember this one. That's so bad. I can't recall exactly, but there was a time when and David Spade got in trouble for making fun of Eddie on SNL, for that matter. Like there was a time in the mid 90s, early 90s, going into 2000s where Eddie Murphy just wasn't, outside of the Nutty Professor remake. He really wasn't making the kind of box office that he would have expected to be making. Harlem Nights was a bomb. He had a couple of the Pluto Nash. These are other things. Howard would have gone after that shit for fucking centuries if he could have, just to get Eddie's attention, to get him on the show, and he'd still kill to have him on the show.
And he still hasn't had him.
No. Do you think he ever will? I don't believe so.
No. He's Eddie's like way tuned him out. Charlie was actually really good on the show. I always like when Charlie showed up on Stern. He had stories and such, but I think that was just the closest he could get to Eddie as possible.
Yeah, that's like getting Linda Lopez on his show instead of J-Lo.
Exactly. Fuck.
Yes,
coming
I
from
do.
my mouth. You think that people are learning from me.
Hey, Howard, let me tell you something.
You think that people are turning to me for opinions on Tom Snyder.
Let me tell you something.
And I said you don't like Oriental people in a serious vein.
Hold on a second.
Tom, you're hallucinating.
I have people who listen to me, I know far fewer than you on radio, who think I'm sending them messages over the air to come and visit me, to have dinner with me.
So you're going to blame me for those people?
Of course I'm not, but I'm saying to you that what you don't realize is that what you broadcast to people, some, and I will grant you it's a minority, take as the gospel truth. And if you say that I am a racist, or...
So all humor should stop because Tom feels bad for a couple of mental patients.
I'm hostile.
We're going to stop having entertainment, sarcasm, humor of all kinds because there are 3 or 4 people in the audience who can't get the joke. Boy, I got to tell
you...
Oh, yeah. And then not to mention, let's say when Howard goes off the fucking handle because someone that wrote that he ripped off Johnny Carson once on a show, or that he spent $300,000 on a vintage desk, an antique desk, or that he was quoted by Jim Carrey and not quoted. Jim Carrey was quoted in Playboy for saying that he was responsible for Sam Kinison relapsing. And him pitching a bitch. That was one clip I wanted to do, except that there was no Jim Carrey to fucking rebut it. He's just his take on what Jim said on the phone. But no one's more fucking butthurt about criticism. The Wendy Williams thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he goes, he admits to it. He says he'll take it and then he'll ramp it up and he'll take a machine gun to it. That's his way of retaliating.
What's good for the goose is never good for the gander.
Nope.
You see it your way and your way alone, don't you?
And you know what, I'm right. And you only wish you thought like me.
Hey, listen, in a lot of ways I do think
what hurt you that I said
you know what's great about you, Howard?
Yeah. What hurt you?
Let me tell you what's really great about you.
Yeah.
Okay? But let me just make this one point.
What's it going to be like when they turn off the camera and I got to deal with this guy?
Then they'll probably want to take more publicity stills of us smiling and holding each other's hands since we're all doing bull broadcasting.
Okay, go ahead.
Forgive me, I said bull on the air.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Take some...
Way to go, Tom. Fuck. Hey, so who's the shock jock here?
It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody cares.
No, and he also knew he was just filling in for Costas, so it's not like he had the gig to lose.
Right.
But who's the shock jock here? Like who's really being shocking here?
That, and we're seeing again a masterclass of someone able to corral the ridiculousness of uncomfortableness which Wiggy has made this, and Snyder's still in the mix. He's still in there. He's countering.
That's right.
Tomorrow out of here.
I'm getting to you.
So anyway,
I really did hurt you.
No, but what I'm getting to here is it's like, people who write about you in magazines and newspapers and they say derogatory things about you that aren't true. There are people who read them, Howard, and they believe them. And there are people who hear you say Sammy Davis wanted to kill himself. Of
course, and that's a positive message.
Wait a second. Why are you yelling at me?
Because you're yelling at me. That's a positive message.
You yelled first.
And I'm the one who's supposed to be a maniac.
Admit it. You yelled first.
This is a positive message. When you tell people not to smoke.
And when they hear you say these things, they think, Howard Stern said Sammy Davis wanted to kill himself. Howard Stern said A, B, C, D, and they take it as gospel. There are people...
But of course, do you think there's something wrong with what I've just said?
Wait a second. Yeah, I do.
You don't think Sammy Davis Jr. was killing himself with cigarettes?
I don't think...
Are you out of your mind?
I don't think he wanted to.
You have lost your mind.
I don't think he wanted to.
You know what is happening? You are getting old, and you are afraid of your own death.
At least I had one to lose.
You cannot cope with the fact that you're going to die.
Wow. Look at the pot calling. Woo.
Yeah. Now, this is Howard being a total prick. Now, Sammy Davis Jr., first of all, what a fucking shitty reference. I mean, the guy was a lifelong smoker, and obviously he knew, everybody knew cigarettes were bad for you back then. None of those people were. And he wanted to kill himself and all this bullshit. Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like someone wants to kill themselves via starvation, these days, and bad hair implants. But nevertheless, I love Snyder. He's giving it right back to him, dude. This is the rope-a-dope.
Exactly. And when we see Wiggy do his I need to talk over somebody.
Yep.
This is where we know that he's basically pinned in the corner. He's getting his He's getting chopped up pretty bad. He's getting the Ric Flair chops pretty bad.
Instead of, woo, I'll go for the fairy.
Well, someday you think you're going to go on forever. You've really lost your mind. You have lost your mental capabilities.
Hostile.
You're sitting here thinking that people take humor seriously.
Out of date.
When Robin Williams makes
the air.
When Robin Williams makes a joke, do you think people get the joke? Do you think people get the joke?
If you're comparing yourself to Robin Williams,
yeah,
I'm not the one who's out of touch.
Brilliant. Listen, and by the way, he was at what, making of the Fisher King, getting a Oscar win for the Fisher King, if I'm not mistaken. Robin Williams at this time, 91. He was going to make Hook, but the Fisher King was around this time. Anyway, the bottom line is here. Snyder's got his measure. This is what I'm looking at now. He is like one of this old Japanese pro wrestler, like stringing the fucking rookie along, like telling him what to do, giving him all the direction. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's got his young boy. That's his young boy there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you think that Robin Williams is funnier than I am?
I don't think anything. I'm just trying.
You wouldn't know what's funny, Tom.
Let me give you your logic back.
Yeah.
We have a man that goes to the DMV.
Do you think I'm the president of the United States?
Just a minute.
You're going to give me some Vietnam reference now?
No, I'm not.
All right, let me ask you something.
I want to give you your logic back if you can hold still just 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
On your show.
All right,
That's
let's
all
hear
I
your logic. And then let me respond to your logic.
No, let you put me down for trying to display it to you.
Let me hear your logic.
A man goes to the DMV in Los Angeles.
All right.
And he buys a license number and an address of a movie star with whom he's infatuated.
Yeah.
Her name is Rebecca Schaefer.
Go ahead.
And he goes to the door of her apartment and he shoots her.
Yeah.
Now, by your logic, so what? We should stop selling all information?
How dare you say that?
We should stop selling all information from the DMV because this one crackpot?
You are a crackpot. You are such a crackpot, and you're so full of it that it's frightening.
No, you're the one who's
You are
frightening.
blaming...
Oh man, you're right. And this, I remember it specifically. At this point, it's like, the trolley has gone completely off the rails, and he can only thing he can do now left. The only card he has left to play is to outshout Snyder.
Right. This is why he shadow boxes better than anybody. He's the king of shadow boxing. He's the world's greatest champion of all time, because face to face with somebody, he can't debate. We've seen him do it with Dice. We've seen him do it with Imus. We've seen him do it with, anybody else, toe-to-toe, face-to-face, over the phone and such. He has to overpower with getting louder and just being insulting.
Yeah. The same way when he was a kid, he'd have to just be an annoying piece of shit until the parents acquiesced. Now, that would not have worked in my household, I can tell you that much.
Oh,
Screaming,
no.
crying, no. And I'm sure your mom was the same way.
No, never.
No, and with us, it was, I'll give you something to cry about.
Exactly.
and with my dad, I remember one time, I'll never forget, because it really did change my outlook on the whole thing. He goes, he saw me crying for a bit, and he goes, and I wasn't that much of it, but I was tantruming a little bit that day, and it was really probably like 3.5 or something. He goes, in Greek, he said, you can keep crying for the next 2 hours, but it's not going to change anything. He just ignored me and kept watching TV, and I stopped. I realized he's right. He's calling me on my shit. As a 3.5-year-old, I remember distinctly that I just wiped my eyes and I decided to go do something else, whatever. Howard's never, ever been able to be like, he's never been able to come to that realization himself. He seems to think that all these things still work.
Yeah. And it seems as though that he's, you figure that, his age and time and experience, that maybe you'll outgrow it. But nope. No. And like, nope.
No way. Not a chance.
A disc jockey for the ills of society.
No, I'm not.
And that shows your mental incapacity.
You're not a disc jockey. You're an entertainer.
You are nuts.
And you're a broadcaster.
An entertainer, whatever you want to call me.
The responsibility of broadcasting.
Do you think I'm doing a serious show?
So lightly that it's terrifying. No, I don't think you're doing a serious show. You think you are.
You are a kook.
Hostility.
A kook who deserves to be put you
jealousy.
In a mental.
See, now, for the sake of what Wiggy's saying, fine. Everybody has different tastes when it comes to their selection of entertainment. That's fine. And far be it for me to sit there and judge somebody else. This is why I don't look at anybody else's podcast when dealing with wrestling, because it's apples and oranges to what I do as comparison to them. And I'm not judgmental with that. I stopped doing that like years ago because I'm saying I'm too focused on that. I need to focus on what I do.
Yeah.
With the audience that gears to what Wiggy would do, that's his audience. But at the same time, own some accountability to it. You know, own up to the fact that, yes, I am an influencer at this point in time. I am a voice that people are taking as gospel, that people are, and because that's what he wanted. He wanted a following, and that's what he got.
That's correct. Now, yeah, well, he's never been one to accept responsibility. I mean, the fact is do you remember when he had to read the Selena talk back in Spanish and he read it? Like he had to apologize on the air. I'm sure that fucking killed him inside. Right. And
it wasn't even a sincere apology. It wasn't. No. And he once again he foils the fact that yes, and he fumbles the ball when it comes to yes, I am this person that I want millions and millions of followers. I brought in 30 million listeners to Sirius and such, but yet I don't hold any accountability or responsibility.
And this, God, and Len just sent me a voice message about the Rachel Cunter episode, which was Patreon exclusive for those of you listening on the Thursday session. I think that he said, I think there was something more to that whole blow up that he had when she wouldn't come in than just she wouldn't come in. It was something like he must have got some bad news, like some bad numbers or bad, regarding, the subscribers and stuff, something like that. I don't know that there was. It's a good point. He could very well have received some news. I think it was more a realization, like, and Len said too, to his credit, I think he realized, oh my God, like I've really taken the money and I've lost every bit of voice I had in the media by going over here.
Yeah, and not taking getting the understanding that I'm starting over again. I'm not going to be this big guy that I used to have. I used to be on terrestrial. Like, this is a start over. This is a new plane for me to play in, and it's gonna be rough going over. But he never wanted that. He wanted it always to be easy. Sirius was supposed to line him up, get him what he wanted, get him his interviews, and I'll be sure to knock him out the park. And no, they weren't going to do that for him.
I was listening to a clip. It was not the Michael Powell audio. It was Chauncey talking to Neil Cavuto on Fox about, how, it's really not, it's going to be a disaster for him in some ways. Money-wise, he'll be fine, but influence, it won't be good because they won't get advertising. They're going to need it on Sirius to offset some of the cost. And Howard tried to rebut the shadow box with the tape, as always, and he said, they offered me a boatload of money. Money was not a consideration. I had plenty of money to retire, and not work again. I'm like, well, then you took a job that paid you way more and went to a different format. So money did play a factor because you're still doing it and for way more money. So you're full of shit.
Right.
That wasn't, you don't just casually take $100 million a year contract.
No, there had to be an agreement and such of what is going to go, what's going to come across when you are at this place and what is going to happen when we're there. And while everyone's sitting there doing, hell, they were even stopping at like the Maxim station and doing interviews. These guys didn't want to go anywhere near Stern. And it's because, you got to take accountability once again of your reputation. You didn't sit there and say, the format here, we're going to be a little bit different and such. That came 15 years later afterwards and such, or 10 years later, 10 years afterwards, and where he's like, we got to change it up. But at that time, you were grassroots. You had to start from the beginning, and he wasn't happy with that he was being irrelevant or starting to be.
Yeah, I think I think it was something like 2 weeks in, 18 days in, and I think he actually, that's when he might have realized, holy shit, I really have silenced myself, haven't I? I took the money and I shut myself up.
Listen, he went from millions of listeners across terrestrial to starting from like 300,000, 400,000 listeners, if that, barely.
Yep.
So
basically, like they did the one Arbitron thing, said he had no more than I think they said 1.2 million per week, but that was 4 days of broadcasting, so it translates to like about 300,000 a day max.
Yeah, so it didn't hit him well.
Yeah.
Hospital.
Locked up. Don't point that at me.
You're a mental hospital. You are out of your mind.
No, you're nuts.
No, you're nuts.
No, you're really nuts, Howard. You really are.
Oh, my God.
You're turning me into you.
Oh, man.
What kind of show is this? The guy asks you questions, doesn't let you
and
respond.
you won't answer them.
You're like a sick man. You are a psychopath.
Look at he's laughing now.
You
look I'm tickling this guy.
Yeah, you're tickling. Yeah, come here. Come on. Oh, I just want to choke you. That's what I want to do. Where's Rebecca? I'm Rebecca Schaefer's murderer.
See, there
right there.
Your family life. You know, people read the Us magazine. They love gossip. They love personal stories. Tell us about your family, your daughters, and what you and the family do, you know, for life.
My wife and I have been married for 13 years.
Congratulations, sir.
I have slept with the same woman for 17 years. I go on radio on a regular basis, and I inform people of this because I think that this is a very moral thing to do, to marry someone and stick with them and stick by them and make a partnership in life. Think that's shocking, Tom?
Not at all. I think that's very good.
You married?
No, I'm not.
Would you dump your wife 2 or 3 times?
Dumped her 2 or 3 times, left her without a quarter.
This is Mr. Morality. He's worried about my morality. If everybody sat and worried about themselves and their own morality, Tom's probably fornicating every night with different starlets out in Hollywood.
And different genders, too. Put that down.
Well,
and now
that's your
leap up
business.
and say, oh!
Well, Howard's ears will prick up when you hear that.
I was about to say that you could tell that there's like this still uncomfortable air because we haven't seen the gayness yet. Usually I was waiting for him to do the gay where he goes, come here, Tom, let me give you a kiss. Like, yeah, we haven't seen it yet. So there's still that uncomfortable piss mist that's still out there.
Piss mist. It's like Killer Khan's green spray. Well, listen, I think you're right. He hasn't hugged him or tried to kiss him or get him to spank him yet. But that may come in later. I can't remember exactly because I first saw this when YouTube became a thing, and it was that whatever year that finally was. And then since then, I've only seen little bits of this, but it's fascinating to see now because there's a bit of a time capsule. I didn't see it in that when this did air originally. I never did see it, even though I would try to get to see if I knew Howard was in TV Guide on whatever talk show, I'd try to watch it. But not after a couple of fucking Letterman appearances, I knew to not bother again because even then I was like, no, maybe I'll just stick with the book and the TV show. Fuck.
You know, do one of those.
We're going to put you on the dating game.
Not yours, you're not.
Well, maybe you're ready
he's starting to laugh again.
All right, go ahead.
But I think it's great that you have this side of your life that your listeners and that the viewers of your television program hear about.
That's right.
That they know in the midst of all the zaniness, all the humor, there is a reality to Howard Stern that they don't often see. Like you got kids, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and you
That's the reality of the radio show. Let me tell you something, that my shows, my television or radio show, deal with the realities of family life. It deals with raising 2 children. It's a father knows best from hell.
What's been the toughest part of raising your 2 children?
Well, that's kind of difficult when you happen to be on the radio.
When you don't remember,
when you happen to be highly recognized, and that's kind of interesting when you want to just go somewhere with your kids in a park and people come up.
Example, what happens in those situations?
Maybe take off the fucking wig and you won't get hassled. It just occurred to me. Like, dude, you remember the Culver book, one of the first things, the first prologue, Ben and I were doing that. We're still doing that. And he was... he wanted a real estate agent to meet him in a secluded area, and they wanted it to be as press free, not a press free, but basically as quiet as possible with people around. And he shows up in a fucking trench coat with a bandana or whatever and a stretch limo. Like no one's gonna look.
But he takes his wig off, he'll look like Dr. Scratch and Sniff from Animaniacs. He's
great ref. Jeez.
Well, what happens is a lot of people come up, they're thrilled about the show, they want to talk about the show, but you're trying to spend a little free time with your kids, and it's hard to pay attention when you're sitting there with, Rebecca Schaefer's murderer in front of your face. So you're trying to, keep that all
You really got a hang up on that, don't you?
Well, I mean, for God's sakes, to tell me that I'm responsible for something like that.
I didn't say you were. I said
you were alluding to
logic,
but you're wacky.
Why do you keep going back to it? So now you're
a shocking gentleman.
You're in the park with your daughters. What are their names?
What is the difference? What do you want to date them now, Tom? They're 7 and 4 for crying out loud. What's the importance? Emily and Deborah.
All right.
2 normal names, not son of Satan. You understand?
Right. Very good. I like that.
Thank you. I made you
funny. That's funny.
Well, I'm glad you're
So you're
amused.
in the park with Evelyn and Deborah.
Right.
Evelyn and Deborah. He's forgotten already.
Listen.
Good on you. Well, Howard does the same thing. He just fucks up names all the time. It's a little taste of his own medicine.
Swings.
Senile. I tell him a name and he still don't remember. Doesn't know where I broadcast. Evelyn. Who names a child Evelyn?
This is going to be really tough for you to believe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really tough, but people used to know who I was, and they'd come over and interrupt playtime with my daughter Annie, okay? Right. And you're right, it was a very, very difficult time.
See, we're relating.
Exactly.
Isn't
we're
this
trying to get to know each other.
All right, we're getting...
What else in Howard Stern's life? What other normalcies do you have in life that you share with all the people that listen to you and watch you?
Oh, boy, Tom, this is some exciting interview. Well, I'll tell you something. This is
it sure beats being yelled at. I'll tell you that.
Okay, so what is different and amusing about my wife, my life with my wife?
Normal.
Well, I think
I'm the one who doesn't
pay attention. I'm a man who must go to bed at 8 o'clock every night because I get up at 4 in the morning, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for me to have sex with my wife. All right?
Okay.
All right. Would you like to hear about that?
Hey, wait, let me do the acronym. Oh, fair enough, sir.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, good.
Let's move on.
Yeah,
It doesn't leave me a whole lot of time. Do you realize how big I'm going to be in Los Angeles?
And then when you and Mrs. Stern go out...
Mrs. Satan, yes.
I'm sure that people come over and they want to, touch you and...
No, they don't. Ronnie will take him down at the knees. Jesus. Well, Ronnie was the limo driver back in the day, but when was it that he actually became security per se? Do you recall?
This happened later in the 90s. This is
Is this after the the gun shooter, like the active shooter thing that Grillo saved him from?
Yeah, I think it was around that time. It was right before the Gary Busey thing. That's when Ronnie came in and he wanted to do his own security team. That's why he gave him shit afterwards when Gary Busey took him to the ground. He was like, Ronnie, where the fuck were you at?
Yeah. Fancy getting Vern Troyer to act as your fucking enforcer. Jesus. Let's keep going.
They idolize me. I'm a guy who keeps them entertained. Yeah. Yes, that's true. There's not a whole lot of celebrities in New York.
So one of the things that's difficult about being Howard Stern...
You don't smoke the cigarette anymore.
Not anymore.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, but I still do the laugh.
All right. I thought the Dan Aykroyd thing was a scream.
Fabulous.
And that's what turned me on to you.
Yeah.
But you think it ruined your career?
No, it didn't ruin my career.
You think
it
made you a joke
and
a buffoon?
Hey.
I'm like, I just realized he did the 3-syllable thing. Dan Aykroyd.
No, yeah, and it still happens to this day.
Abelo, Le Zeppelin.
Hey, imitation is the sincerest form. Look at all the people that imitate your style on radio, coast to coast.
That is very true.
Yeah, they all want to be Howard Stern.
And what a dream.
But they're not funny, okay? They're not inventive, all right, and they're not sincere.
Well,
that's why you're the king.
I'm the king.
And they're nothing.
And that's right.
Okay. We're with Howard Stern, and you're going to watch the commercial, and we're going to soul kiss now these messages.
Jeez. I want to see this one.
You are what is wrong with television.
You were just, Tom, you're going right up his alley.
Bob Costas will be back on Monday, and I would thank Howard Stern, but that's phony. That's polite stuff.
Well, how about being real and saying, I'm here for a plug, not to meet you or to sit and talk to you, and would you allow me the final plug, one, Stern? Would you allow me to say that this is the...
He had to do it. Oh, Christ almighty. I don't recall hearing the aftermath of this on the air, and I do have the archives from that time period. I don't know if that's 100% complete. Do you remember him talking about it? I know he talked about Snyder when he passed away, but I don't recall a whole lot of I'll have to look that up.
Nah, it was usually like stuff in passing when they would talk about whatever he did a guest spot or something like that he'll bring it up. He was like, oh, like the disaster that happened when I was with Snyder, that piece of garbage, and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Stuff the government banned that you are opposed to censorship.
There's nothing wrong with your set.
Are you opposed to censorship?
Sleep tight, America. Good night, everybody.
He walks up. There go the sunglasses. Guys, that's the end of that part of it, but we decided we're going to pad this out a little bit more by putting in an extra clip. Now, this is an 8-minute clip about Shuli asking Howard about therapy. I don't believe I played it, but I don't think it's made an appearance here, but I think it might be all right, considering that for the upteenth time now. What is it, the 4th time?
I think I'm on month 5 now. I've been gifted a membership to the Shuli Network.
They're still plugging along.
Oh yeah, listen, hey, regardless of what people say and this whole Dabbleverse thing is going on, listen, I'm just waiting for the tragic events. That's what I'm waiting for. Not to wish bad on anybody, but this can't end well. Be it, bankruptcy.
Either way, yeah.
It's not going to end well.
Yeah, Len and I discussed a little bit about his ex-producer getting done in for possession of child porn and distribution and stuff. I don't tie that to Shuli in any way, shape, or form, because obviously the guy's the one incarcerated or doing jail or about to be doing jail time or whatever, and Shuli isn't. And if Shuli was complicit, he'd be in some serious shit.
Yeah, I don't. It's a silly notion to believe that you knew a guy was into CP. And you kept him on the payroll, knowing who would do that? That's ludicrous, and it's not worth losing your money over that. No. It's such a reach for that whole universe, but that's what they do there. They're just it's toxic as shit.
It's too much of a reach, even though I fucking hate Shuli and would love for him to have been fucking done in like Gary Savile or Gary Glitter and Jimmy Savile. But in actual fact, what the one thing you can say without a doubt is that, if you know people that fucking demented, that fucking just it does strike me as not surprising. It's that Shuli associates with people that this can happen to. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody else, we know they're peccadillos. Like we know Bob's eats blue cheese out of chicks' asses on stage, which is already, it's got to be some type of felony. It's got to be assault.
Yeah, but it's also the thing that you got even creepier to know that Sutter and John had pictures of Shuli's kids, and then to find out, that possibility that this guy you had as your producer was probably the one that gave it to him. So that's even more on a different level of weirdness and fucking creepy mode. Why would you even want to tolerate that for your network? That's it's stupid.
It's a little asinine even for that show. This clip, guys, by the way, comes from March 5th, 2004, just in case you're trying to place it.
Out of all the people on your staff that have gone through therapy, who do you think has benefited the most from it?
First of all, I know I've been in therapy. I know Robin's been in therapy. I know Fred's been in therapy.
We know Baba Booey's been in therapy.
I know Baba Booey, but I hardly call it therapy what Baba Booey's in, because he went for like a week or two.
And then KC, of course.
Yeah, and KC.
Hey, I went for a year.
Did you? I don't know, but you went once.
A year, a week. What's the difference? He's got no sense of time.
Year, lifetime. I mean, come on.
I don't remember. For those of you who also don't remember, I don't remember specifically. I just know it had to do with his mother issues, obviously, and probably when his brother passed away, he might have needed to do a little therapy. And I don't shit on Gary for that. That's a rough thing to go through. What he did,
especially with his mom. Woof,
big time.
Once a week, and it was kind of one of those like guys who kind of tell you what to do, kind of psychiatrist. I don't think you had any kind of intensive therapy,
like a coach.
Guys that tell you what to do, in other words, help you be better than yourself instead of the asshole you're paying for the last 25 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think you learned a thing. I think it was like how to manage a certain situation.
I agree that it wasn't the therapy that you're going through.
And I don't think Baba Booey's all that screwed up. I'd like to say Robin benefited the most.
Right.
But I don't know.
No, I think Fred benefited the most.
Yeah. Yeah, because his marriage got saved.
Yeah.
And plus, Fred was such a freak, he couldn't even be next to a woman or with a woman sexually or anything.
Neither could you.
And I don't know, so some kind of change came over
He
him.
almost became human. They did.
I would have said Robin, but after she reacted to her cat's death yesterday,
You're too funny.
That was evil.
she didn't like that I was
Funny.
paying attention to Brian.
It wasn't that you were paying attention to
You
Brian.
need
It's
me.
all this dog stuff.
You need me focused on
I'm
you.
jealous of the dog.
You're jealous of Brian.
Oh my God! You need me focused on you. What projection?
Yeah. Please. She left her own therapy. She didn't get her exit like she's supposed to get.
No, she didn't. She bragged about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've been ending this for months. You just didn't know it. Fucking Christ!
You want my attention? I know that.
You're too funny. Don't even start with
Okay.
that. I don't care about your
I was going
attention.
to say, as soon as I'm done with Brian, I'll get back to you.
I
Don't
don't
worry.
care about your attention. Please focus on Brian.
No, I'm fully attentive.
Don't even make it up like that.
No.
You can't say you don't care
Don't care about what?
about his attention. You know you care.
You love it.
Who's?
Yeah, Robin needs it.
No.
Hey, I read in the paper Robin is up for a talk show.
What?
I am?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if you hired a publicist to say that or what. Is that a plant or
Where is it? I
in the
don't know.
Daily News?
Interesting that he used that term. Is that a plant?
Mm-hmm. I was just about to say, well, or maybe the fact that was it that she did it behind his back and didn't let him know ahead of time what was going on, or
Well, same agent. I find it hard to believe that a cunt like Buchwald wouldn't tell everything that went on behind the scenes to Howard. However, just because Buchwald was Robin's agent doesn't mean he was attentive to her. And I can imagine her press agent not relaying the information to Don and saying, like, let's fucking put this out there.
right? Wouldn't that be considered a conflict of interest if you did that?
I don't know, because I mean, if you put out a press release, not a press release, but something like an interview, let's say, or like a Q&A. You remember Playboy used to have 20 questions?
Right.
It was something short and mentioning, oh, I'd like a show. Then that's not a press release. That's you expressing your opinion on what you'd like to do in your career, and therefore not really a conflict of interest. But if it did get out, would Buchwald be a little upset? Yeah, probably. But I think Robin knows that she has a little more cachet and a little more strength in any kind of bargaining than Jackie and everybody else, and obviously Fred at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard Crazy Cabby's going to be her announcer.
Crazy Cabby informed me today that he's running for president.
So that should go over big with the people.
And you know, I think I agreed to vote for him.
Were you
Howard,
drunk?
if you had to choose between voting for Bush or Crazy Cabby, who would you vote for?
I'd vote for Crazy Cabby. He ain't that crazy.
But let me
Man. Well, I might as well. What is that?
I was just going to ask you again a real other question about therapy, another quick one.
Yeah.
Your mom hasn't been a fan of therapy. She never believed in it.
She doesn't believe in anyone outside her advising me.
Does she see that it helped you? Does she see that?
No, she doesn't know me that well. My mother doesn't know me that well.
Just because you live with somebody doesn't mean you know them.
My father doesn't know me at all, and my mother knows me.
I think it's the opposite. I think she knows him way too well because they're one and the same. They are. Yeah. And I think that he hasn't come to grips with that. This is probably in his early days of therapy.
Yeah, 5 years. He's 5 years deep now, maybe 6 tops.
So I believe that this is probably the time where he should have been already informed that, yeah, you are your mother. That the therapist should have let him know that yeah, you generally are cut from that same line in which her diagnosis is. You're the same person.
Yeah, I think, well, psychoanalysis is really like somebody listens to you fetch and you give your bullshit and they don't respond. They don't give you tips on how to deal with that kind of shit. They just take your money and say, fine, next time tomorrow, dude, same time tomorrow. Don't forget to leave the fucking check. Yeah. But then Ben knew exactly what Howard was as well. The only thing is they didn't know clinically what to call him. But now I'm sure eventually they did get this sorted out. And I'm sure even Allison talking to them, not knowing that they wouldn't like to hear their baby boy being disparaged, probably would have said, your son's a fucking malignant narcissist and he needs real help. And he's a shitty father. So, whatever. I'm sure Allison, if they asked or if they called or whatever, which maybe they didn't bother, but I'm sure during the divorce period, she was going to be very, very guns blazing with the parents and be fully transparent about what happened with him.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been like a fly on the wall to hear if Beth and Allison ever had a conversation to see if whether or not. Did Beth get a better version of Wiggy, or did she get a mess even worse off?
That's a great question. What do you think? Because he had Allison for the first half of his life, and then he's got Beth since then. So if he lives another 10 years, it's about even Steven. But yes, financially, Beth's got the better side, but Allison, he wasn't doing all too shabby all those years with Allison either. But she has the kids, and that gives her some joy, I suppose.
I think Beth got the worst end because he became more of a manipulator and controlling of the whole scenario. Whereas Allison just was like, we've heard her speak to him. Like she didn't tolerate his nonsense. With Beth, she's just like there.
Well, she did tolerate it until she didn't. Until she decided, fuck this, I don't need to. But she also was a smart cookie. Beth is never going to be accused of that.
Right.
She knows me the way she wants to know me. She sees me in a certain light.
Well, yeah, she has an idea of you, but it's not you.
Right. She completely doesn't know who I am. It's all fake. What?
That's again projection.
Definitely.
That's him talking about how he feels about his mother.
How he feels about his mother, and I think in twofold, how his kids think of him.
Yes, I believe so too.
You're saying at all?
At all.
At all.
No.
It's amazing.
She knew me when I was a little kid, but she basically told me how she felt.
Right.
And told me how I should behave.
In fact, what happens when he says something...
The same guy who told his kids, you got to be private. People are always going to be looking to manipulate us and get close to us, and you can't trust anybody. That's not the same fucking awful narcissism that Ray did to him.
Right. She kept them blanketed, kept them under the teat.
Yeah, that's why I regardless of her awful album and awful poetry and awful photography, I feel bad for Emily Stern.
Yeah, she's still in that finding herself. She's still working through that because he wasn't there.
Right. And she's pushing 40 at this point.
Yeah.
That's the really scary part.
That doesn't fit the mold. She goes, no, you don't.
Yeah. If I tell her mom, I had a drug problem at one point, she'll go, why do you say that? You know you didn't. I was there. I saw you were fine. So, it's fine. I don't care that my mother needs to invent some sort of weird reality for me.
It's what she can handle.
It's what she can handle. My mother's been through a lot in her life. She had a tough life, and right. I think she's very scared of outsiders.
So
doctors, everything. She's tremendously.
She
makes it fairy tale. She's a very fearful woman. She doesn't think she is, but she is.
Same.
I got my mom pegged.
And vice versa.
She's a great lady, loving lady, very, very sweet lady. But she's had horrors in her.
That fucking word.
Great lady.
Loving. Fucking
life. And she,
Look, holding on by a thread.
If I say to my mother, I'm seeing a therapist, she goes, and she takes it as a personal attack.
Why?
Why would you say that? Your father and I don't believe in that. And
what are you doing? You talking about me?
Well, that's the complaint. Yeah. Actually, I am.
I did something wrong. You were fine.
Oh, so now it's me. I go, I'm not talking. I said, you're awfully. I said, I'm not talking about you. Oh, you are too.
I remember.
And I did the best I could, and your father loves you.
You didn't turn out so bad. That's always
yeah. Well, if I did such a bad job, I go, Mom, did I say you did a bad job? If I did such a bad job, how come you're so successful?
Oh, Christ.
But at least there's with that thought there's some accountability with the parent, although it's skewed in a certain view. At least there's a look to it where he buries it. He doesn't even want to bring it up, doesn't even discuss it.
I have a secret thought that it just occurred to me that maybe Ben Stern was a secret multimillionaire, and he just acted like he had to go to work to get the fuck out of the house.
He got money from like some settlement from the war, and he's just like,
who knows? Well, that glass eye, man, it could have been a bit of like some mortar fire or something, like like a test round or friendly fire. Like, oh god, here we go. How much you would keep this silent? Columbo. But we'll go.
Just because you're successful doesn't mean you did a good job.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, well, believe me, you're doing terrific, and you got nothing to complain about.
Make things up. Go ahead.
And all this dwelling on negative, and I don't like it, and your father doesn't like it, and we don't believe in that. And
I don't feel like she's the spokesperson for your dad. Your father doesn't like it.
You know your father loves you. Go what? Well, why doesn't he tell me that?
He's right there. He's not saying a word.
No, he's busy with nothing.
I remember you were talking to her once. You had gone for like a year, maybe, or 2 years, and you were talking to her on the air, and you said, "Mom, it's really helped me out a lot." And her exact quote to you was, "What do you know?"
Yeah. What do you know?
Diminishment. That's fantastic. I mean, if he ever got sick, all they'd have to do is give Ray a microphone and put her on the air.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, even without him doing the impression, it's there. She's there. Like whenever Gary would say something and he didn't like it, you hear him say, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah, really?" And I'm like, there goes Ray. She's right there.
Yep.
Yeah, if I tell her, therapy's been great, she makes this distorted face and goes, "Well," and like what's good?
You look fine.
Believe me, all this self-indulgence and talking about the self. I mean, it's not necessary. Fair.
Do something.
Believe me.
This is scary. The more I hear him do that fucking impression, the more I think I hear him saying it in his shitty, whiny, unmodulated voice, and like just telling people like this on the air. I mean, I'm just listening to a wrap-up show segment where Artie had gone from he just arrived from the Shatner roast. And he was on the wrap-up show, and they asked, like, John and Gary asked him, like, what did you feel about, the complaints you heard about Howard, saying, well, what's he doing over there? This is his show. He should be over here. What kind of good stories is he going to get from L.A.? We're in, with the comedians at Comedy Central roast or Friars Club roast, getting some inside dope before it actually gets broadcast, that kind of stuff, shithead. He's going to be in a business that you're not actually in called show business.
And especially since that was an arrangement that was made years prior to that when he got on, in which that's what he was allotted to do. And like you said, it's show content. You're bringing something to the table.
Well, to Artie's credit, he said that was the old contract. At Sirius, he didn't have the same teeth to do it. But he said, I won't be doing any other ones if I have to fucking hear that again, basically. I won't hear them shitting on it. It's actually a really good clip, and it's sad to hear, but maybe we'll cover it as something else as part of another one of those fucking, emotional abuse episodes. But yeah,
he always wanted to be like like the belle of the ball, wanted to be invited to everything, but then gripe and bitch about it because you hear it with, oh, I got to do Kimmel this week. Oh, I got to do Letterman this week. Oh, I got to. But yet when nobody's reaching out to him, why nobody's reaching out to me? Why I'm not at the Shatner roast? Come on.
Yep, absolutely.
Very opinionated woman when it comes to me.
She's a good woman, and she means well.
Oh, yeah, my mom loves me, but man, it's weird love.
Mr. Big Shot.
Strange love. Well, it's all about my mom keeping me close to her.
Yeah.
In my family, separation equals death.
It's the only way you get out.
Separation equals death, except he could separate himself from his own family constantly.
That's an interesting phrase to say. As in Shakespeare, death means something else. I wonder what he meant by that. That's a very telling phrase to use.
Well, the thing is, he wanted to be. He needed Ray. Like I know a lot of people are thinking that when Ray goes, he's going to give her the same shitty treatment he gave Ben, because she can't give him any supply anymore. Even if it's negative attention, it's still attention. I have a feeling that it's not going to be nearly as bad as Ben, because he built up that mythology about Ben being unsupportive and all this bullshit because he needed a scapegoat. Now, he does blame his mother as well, but they've got that push-pull relationship that they have is not the same one he had with Ben.
I think it's going to be more interesting because with his own fear of death itself,
yep,
he also would look as her death will be his death. His narcissistic way will be a death of him. It's him going.
Yeah, and I don't think his sister passing away would be a problem for him because he has a detachment from her. But it would definitely be another one of those the blow of mortality, as you say, and getting him closer to, the dirt nap.
Yeah. If you separate, you will die. Something bad will happen to you. It's really heavy. But,
I always say the Sterns have a bunker mentality.
Yeah.
We're in the bunker. We're okay.
Yeah. Everything is a threat.
It's bad when Robin's goofing on your family.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, she knows. She knows my whole story.
They're wonderful, though. I love them.
She had a good...
But it's only that core because his sister... gone. She left.
Gone.
Like the moment she got to college, she was out that door. Separation, didn't care. She was gone.
I think inherently she knew she was smart. You had to get the fuck out of that house. It's just not healthy. And I'm sure her fella, the guy she ended up marrying, which I believe was the guy that she was dating then, he was, I think he was PR, but he must have told her, look, that your house is a fucking it's a mess. God bless them. But I know maybe he liked Ben, but I'm sure he, on some level, even though they wouldn't have had a diagnosis, they would have said, you got to just leave. I'll get you out of there ASAP.
Yeah. Because even when she would come on from times and she would tell the story, she was always laughing. She was very jubilant about the upbringing. And like, she didn't have this miserable time that he did. And she never counteracted it. Like she just played along with him because she was like, my life wasn't like that. I was free. I was a free spirit. I did whatever the fuck I wanted to do.
But she was an alpha. Like she would not take Ray's shit. Howard took everything right up the ass.
Yeah.
A good time with them.
They're great.
I love them too. I mean, they're fun.
Well, Robin's one of those people who just sit back in the bleachers, wait for the car crash.
Right.
Take it easy. There'd be no car crashes in the Stern household.
No one's allowed to leave.
No one drives.
You go out, I see you run around, and you're busy all the time, and you don't give yourself time for rest. And
you could run for 5 years, and all of a sudden stub your toe. Why are you running?
That running is going to ruin you and hurt you, and...
You don't need that.
And then you get a cold, and I see you run around. She wants me to lay in a box.
Oh, she's so funny. Because it doesn't matter. All the benefits you've gotten through all the... that was bad from beginning to end.
He does the same thing. I was just listening to a snippet of him berating Gary for being late for an appearance, and it was totally not Gary's fault. Gary was on his way to the appearance. He left early. He got into traffic. It was a really bad accident, and it just held him up for 3 hours. And he's like, well, you probably could have left at this amount of time. And he's like, it's a 2.5 hour trip. I left 4 hours prior. It gave me a window of an hour and a half. I did not know that. Well, no, you could have. That's his mother. He's just a carbon copy of her.
Yeah, I'm connected to the universe. I know when an accident's going to happen, so I'll leave an hour. I'll leave a day in advance. Fucking idiot.
And I see you run down.
He's that asshole wearing like 2 pairs of underwear on at the airport just in case,
And you're busy with all kinds of things, busy, and you're not doing your meditation.
You're not resting.
And your sister, she is resting, and you're not. Like what?
She wanted a bubble boy.
Yeah, if I could have been a sick boy that had to live in a bubble in her house, she would have been happy.
Yeah.
I raised you to be my ambassador to the world. And you're going to go out there.
You're not taking my message.
You're not taking my message to the people. My neurotic message. And you... Oh, man. Well, hey, listen. All right, listen.
All right,
that's this is the same guy who when he wanted to pierce his ear, his mother, oh, really? You want to pierce your ear? Really?
Your ear is my ear.
Your ear is my ear. You're a representation of me. Why would you do that?
You know, it's funny. Like I got a few tats, but nothing major. Like nothing you'll see unless I'm wearing a tank. But then my nephew got one on his arm that's clearly visible. It goes down past the elbow. It's like a St. George or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the kid doesn't even go to church. I don't know why the fuck he bothered, but he just thought he was, I'll be cool. I'll be a blasphemist, and I'll just be, Anyway, I asked my mother, "What do you feel about that stuff?" She goes, and she's old school. She hates it. She's a lot of Greeks back in those days. Greeks would not get ink. They just would not do it. I don't think it's a vanity thing. I think it's just a cultural thing. Like it's not common enough. Now it is. There's loads of people get them, but I think there's something about it's something like it's almost maybe even possibly a religious thing. Don't defile the body. I'm like, well, how many fucking old timers did I know that defiled their body with booze and cigarettes? What's the difference? Yeah, but there's a generational change that comes about with that kind of shit where. His mother wouldn't be. She would have. I mean, if she was there when he was picking out fucking lingerie for Allison and helping him pick it out, she was helping him pick out everything.
Yeah, she had to be involved. It had to be. Every movement had to be through her eyes because she knew that he would fuck it up. That's another thing too. She knows that he's a fuck up and. Anything that he would even really, that's the tattoo you pick? Really? What does that mean? What do you do with that? What's that about?
You're gonna get that fagula tattoo? Listen, and when he did get the one, first of all, he couldn't take it. Like it was just a little bitty thing. It was like the tattoo artist. His hand got a spasm and it just went across his arm, and that was the tattoo that came out. But it was like I bet he was shitting bricks, like thinking of what's she gonna do when she sees that.
Right. And then he got the one that he got and fucked it up because he didn't like it because he picked her and then had to get it fixed and then did something different on it. So, she knows him. She knows that he's a natural born fuck up.
Fuck up and a chicken. Anyway, guys, we hope you've enjoyed this. Let's get a nice plug out for Turnbuckle Tabloid. You guys are going to be busy this season.
Oh, man, please. Guys, make sure you check us out on all the social media outlets for Turnbuckle Tabloid and all the podcasting outlets. And check out my new network, New York Wrestle Media, on YouTube, Twitch. And we're doing a lot of stuff there, man. Not only are we talking wrestling, we're doing pop culture, and we're also getting down and dirty with some retro video gaming. Yeah. So check us out, man.
Cheers, man. Thank you guys for listening, and take care. Brush your hair.
Goodbye, my sweet loves.
Shit, I'm nervous. Please don't hang up on me. She gets a fat condition for the next 2 years. What do you do?
I leave her. Yeah, I'm out.
No, this is what I was saying. No, don't hang up on my ass. Say she does the marathon, she go to the doctor and you say you got to get fat for 2 years. Say you like that's some kind of condition where she got to get fat. What does you do?
Yeah.
What does you do?
What does you do?